Record. Right. Good day, good evening, good morning, good late night for our friends in Malaysia. Thank you so much for being with us, joining us for another session of Mind Treasures ABCs of Wealth. Great to have you here. As I was sharing, several members will not be able to join today for different reasons, for health reasons. So I thought we start with a healing prayer. So going forward, we will start every session with a prayer. And I have selected a healing prayer for today, which I'm going to share, and then we'll get started. So the screen, sound, Gary, is the sound there? Oops.
Thy name is my healing, oh my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing, and my succoring for this world, and the world to come. Thou verily art the all bountiful, are the all-knowing.
Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So let's do a quick, just give me 1 second. Somebody's asking for the link. All right, so let's do a quick review of what we did last week. I'm going to share my screen again. So last week we started with our faith and finances. We reviewed several scriptures from different sacred books, from the Quran, from the Bible, from Buddha's writing, from Baha'i writing, as how we not only we can, but we also need to align our spiritual and material affairs together. And thank you so much to everyone who posted their conversation with people outside of this group in the group chat. That was lovely. That was great. And as you can see, it's something that has not been presented before. Once you begin to talk to other people about how our spiritual and financial affairs can align, people begin to realize it, and they like to learn more. And as we will mention over and over again, once we are done with this series, we are open to do more series with anyone who can organize a group of 15 or more. That's how we normally do these workshops. Anybody who can bring a group, we schedule the program, the 6-week or how many every session we decide to. And then we advertise it to our entire network, and usually we get a lot of people to participate. All right, so in addition, we looked at human treasures, how I'm just gonna go there. Again, the importance of developing these characteristics that we're all born with, these virtues that we're all born with. We all have them, they're unlimited. Nobody knows, because these are all virtues that have been given to us by God, for those that believe that there is a God and there is a spirituality. And it's great that many of the friends did their assignments and completed. It's like, how do our virtues connect with our finances? Not only our finances, but with our relationships, in our work environment, everything. This is what's really has been missing in our society. So that's what we've done. Just a quick note on for those who are thinking of, after completing this program, presenting it to others. There are many different ways that this can be done for different age groups. Obviously, this virtual setting is not the best for young participants, but we really appreciate Jordan sitting through this. When we do the program in particular schools, we found that schools are the best way to begin presenting financial education. And in person is definitely preferred method of doing this. And when we do the program in schools, we don't do some of these activities. We usually start with human treasures. We're going to continue with patience, moderation, and so forth. It's very interactive. So we use this treasure box. Some of you might have seen it. We get these treasure boxes blank inside. It has 4 different slots. I'm going to hold it to the camera. It has spend, share, invest, and save. So participants get to decorate their boxes. And then in classroom, every session we come in, we give them play money as allowance. So they begin to learn how to manage money. We know that our societies are going toward paperless or cashless money. It's going toward digital currency and all of that. But the concept, the methods are the same. It's no different. So it's very hands-on. I've asked Jordan to decorate his box. I'm not sure if he's had time to do it or not. If not, he can show us his box later in future weeks. And this is something that I think I mentioned last week, that financial education is not just about 10, 12 hours of presentation. It's about doing the activities. It's a lot about developing habits over time. And what we've learned is that these treasure boxes helps our participants do these habits in classroom and then continue it at home, because they get to take this home, put real money inside of it, parents get to see it, and they learn the different concepts. So I'm going to stop here, see if anybody has any question about last week's lessons or what we did, assignments. Again, assignments are very important. I cannot overemphasize the importance of assignments. I know some friends were even doing them just before class. Hopefully we develop the habit of not procrastinating until the last minute. It's something that we have to do. It does not get any easier or more difficult if you do it before class. So definitely let us know if you have any challenge accessing the assignment. So with that, today I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Nari Cooper, one of our dear facilitators who's been working with us for 10 years now. She's one of all our facilitators. As you meet all of them, they're an integral part of our program. We love working together. We are like a family. And for those of you who are not here in San Diego, we are actually getting together for dinner tonight. It's our annual gathering. Hopefully one day we'll have a global gathering somewhere in the world. So with that, Nari, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks. It's really great to be here and nice to meet you all. Sounds like you guys had a great session last week. Unfortunately, I had a conflict, but it was a fun conflict. I'd already had some plans with family. So today we are going to proceed through a couple of other traits. And before we even start in with today's, I did have a question to kind of introduce the topic. And that is, after the introduction last week and where you had to pick your top 3 and the top 3 that you feel you're strong in and the 3 you want to work on, and started thinking about how character traits relate to finances, did anyone notice more how their character traits actually are affecting other aspects of their life, whether it's finances or other aspects? Did it make you more sensitive to the fact that your character traits really do affect aspects of your life? And if so, does anyone have an example that they noticed last week after going through this list of character traits? Are you stronger in something than you thought, or need to work on something? And how did you realize that?
If I might start.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, the diligence. I almost feel everything, but I realize that the diligence is something I need to work on.
Okay.
I believe in I can do everything, but it's foolish. And now thinking back about all the activity I set up, I feel that the diligence is something I need to work on. And now I'm very, I realize that is a good thing. I can do everything, but I need to think about it. I'm very wisely, and something I found was very interesting.
Okay, great. Anyone else have an example before we move on?
I put the question in chat, but no response.
Okay, yes, and if you don't want to speak, please feel free to type type your response, your answer, your thoughts in chat, and Alex will read those out as we go along, as we continue our conversation. Okay, so we will continue and get into this week's, and just to kind of introduce today, we've got 3 treasures we're going to be talking about: patience, moderation, and contentment. And does anyone anyone who's here today consider those treasures a strength? Is there anyone here who considers any of those treasures one of their strengths? And you can type in chat if you think moderation, patience, or contentment is a strength that you have, or if it's one that maybe you realize now you might need to work on, or you can give us a comment if you have an example of how those things might be a strength for you.
I put it in the chat. We can continue, and then as
Okay.
responses come in.
Yes, definitely. Now, everyone last week picked a strength. You picked something that you know you were going to be working on. Does anyone have an example of how they worked on a strength that they were that they had identified? Okay. let's see. So we're gonna get into this idea of how patience, moderation, and contentment affect our finances.
I'm sorry, Nari, are you sharing or who put this up?
No, I'm not. I did not touch anything. I
Okay.
was, I thought maybe you had some new
No.
screen, and I was looking at it kind of going, now how am I gonna tie this into patience? What's Alex doing? But I
Sorry.
was gonna roll with you, Alex. I was gonna roll with you.
No, go ahead. It wasn't me. All right.
Okay, only you and I think, have shared.
I'll make sure that. Okay, keep going, please.
And maybe you don't want me to share. Maybe some, I don't think anything came up on my screen. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, maybe you don't want me sharing because who knows what just came up. So we want to actually go to our patients tab right now. We're going to go to our patients tab and we're going to do a couple of the activities that are in that tab. Awesome. And when we think about patients, in fact, does someone want to read our goal for us? We can kind of associate that a little bit more with our patients. Do we have a volunteer? Okay. It is feeling like we're in the elementary classroom. No one wants to read for us. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is learning to set small goals and patiently work or save towards achieving those goals one at a time. And obviously, one of the ways patience works towards money is being patient while you save money. But there are other aspects of patience as well. And so the first activity, and hopefully some of you got to input, we've got an example here. One of the things a lot of people, especially young people, want is an iPhone. Or even as adults, you might want the latest iPhone. And so rather than just running out after you see an ad and buying it, one example we have here is you can have a plan. You can set a goal and say, I want an iPhone. I'm going to find out the price of it. I'm going to determine when I want it. Do I want it in a week? Do I want it in a year? And what's my plan of action to get that iPhone? Now, when we have a plan of action, there's really two ways when it comes to money that we're going to get more money. We're either going to spend less or we're going to earn more. That's really the way that there's going to be more money available for this iPhone. And in this case, it was an example with one of our young people. So their plan of action was to do more chores so they could earn money from their parents. And they were going to spend less of that chore money on video games so that they would be able to save up the money to buy the iPhone. And with anything you want financially, you can basically use this method. The key is to have a plan. What's your plan? Are you going to maybe take some of your spare time and get a part-time job so that you can earn more money? Or are you going to reduce your spending so that you can redirect those finances towards this item that you are interested in doing? And this could be your goal of buying a house or your goal of starting a business. Well, what's the plan to get to reaching that goal? Because a goal without a plan is just a wish. And you really want, whenever you feel inspired to accomplish something, to sit down and write out a plan of how long it's going to take you to accomplish it, and what are you going to have to do? What actions are you going to have to take? What might you have to sacrifice? And really make sure you understand what the purpose of this goal is. You know, why do you want an iPhone? In this case, a person wanted to be able to use an iPhone because they thought that would help them with their business. But it could be for any reason. You know, you might need the iPhone to better communicate with others. So that's an example. Did anyone input a personal goal that they want to share? And maybe we could talk through together how to fill in that plan, or have a goal that you haven't filled in because you weren't sure about these steps, and we can talk you through it.
I know that looking at everyone who has completed their assignments, there were a lot of good stuff in their goals, both as far as personal and family goals.
Okay,
So
awesome.
yeah, so let's see if anybody, and I put it in the chat, if anybody wants to share one of their goals. We're not going to put anybody on the spot. So
No.
So maybe we can continue on, and then maybe somebody
Yes.
will put their goals in the chat.
Okay, so yeah, feel free to include your personal goals in the chat, and we'll come back and talk about those a little bit more. So in discussing our next activity, because that was a personal goal, the other thing that's really important for us is to set family goals. And does anyone have any suggestions? You can put in the chat, or just raise your hand either physically or via the hand raise button, and gives us some ideas of what are some family goals. They may not be yours, but just your idea of what some family goals might be. What are some examples of a family goal?
So Hassan put in chat, it says, I want to purchase a land within a year, which I think probably that's
Awesome.
both a personal and a family.
Great.
Tay from Rwanda says, one of my goals is to own real rental properties for financial independence. Okay.
Awesome.
So that's another one.
Okay.
All right.
And both of those goals, you would basically be able to set up a plan similar to this, where you really think through the different elements, and then you can also track yourself. That's a way to hold yourself accountable, which is a treasure we'll be talking about later in the program, I believe. You can hold yourself accountable, and when it's a family goal, the family can hold each other accountable. So let's say you're planning a family vacation, and you set a family goal that you all want to go on vacation together. Then as a family, you may decide, so how much is this vacation going to cost us? And what are we as a family going to do to make sure we have the money for the vacation? Is there a way that we're going to not spend as much on something? Maybe there's something as a family we decide we're going to give up. We aren't going to go to the movies as much. Maybe not every week. Maybe we'll just go to the movies once a month, and that money gets set aside towards the vacation. Or maybe
Rhonda,
there's a,
I got one more. Rhonda says, a personal goal of mine is to retire early. Don't we all want to do that?
that's a great plan.
Yep.
Well, no, that's a great goal.
Goal,
Now you need a
exactly.
plan to
Now we
make
need a plan to
sure you
get
get
there.
that goal. Exactly. And part of that is deciding, what does retirement look like for you? Because retirement for a lot of people isn't just not working. It isn't just leaving maybe the current job. What are you going to do during retirement? And that might then influence what your plan is to get to whatever this retired means. Because we've got people that are technically retired from one career, but Alex manages to work us pretty hard. So it doesn't, retired is relative. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And one thing I like to add in there is that at least here in the US, I'm not sure how it is in other parts of the world, but often people meet up with financial professionals like financial advisors, and they call them different things. Financial X-ray, Outwork, they kind of look at individuals' assets and liabilities and income and come up with a crazy number that, oh, this is how much you need to be able to retire, meaning not physically work. And sometimes what I have personally noticed is that that number becomes daunting to the person who has that goal. It's like, wow, this is so huge that I may not ever be able to reach it. So what we found is that everyone, that consulting with a financial advisor is really good, but then we need to bring it down to our own level. It's like, what is it that I can do, the best that I can do? If the best I can do right now is save $10 per month, well, then that's the best I can do. It may not get me to the plan that the financial advisor is saying I need to, but at least I'm trying my best. So that's one thing I wanted to add in.
Yes. And that's where defining what retirement might look like for you. Maybe it isn't not working at all, but maybe it is being able to not work the job that you're doing for the 20 years, saving enough that you can work part-time, but that part-time might be something that you enjoy, but you're going to still get paid for it. So that's where you need to think about those kinds of things. And, it means you have to think about how you're going to invest your money currently, what your expectations are for what you will get back from it, and all of those sorts of things. Okay, we want to proceed a little bit more. The other thing is, All family goals may not be financial. Some of those goals may have to do with sacrificing time. Maybe the price is for family goals is time together for the next few months while someone works overtime. And then you're sacrificing some family time in the near term so that you can have more family time later. Or it could be some other thing that you're sacrificing. Maybe the family says we don't go on vacation this year because we want to go on a bigger vacation next year, something like that. So it's good to talk all this stuff through. Yes.
So I'm putting in chat what sacrifices, because that's something that I personally find is very difficult for people to come up with. I remember the very first time that we did this program with a young couple, they said, we cannot sacrifice anything. They had a lot of debt they wanted to do, and they said, we cannot sacrifice, there's nothing we can sacrifice. So it took a little while to get there. And another one is that the purpose, before we go into the next segment, is the purpose of why we think we need, let's say, an iPhone. Or I'm going to put the new one because one of the participants did say that she wants to buy an iPhone 13.
Okay.
Why is it that we need iPhone 13? Because often in many cultures, as we know, it's about we are looking up to our neighbors, to our friends, or as we call them in US, we are looking up to the Joneses. Joneses are the neighbors, the imaginary neighbors that have a lot more than we do. So just to be able to compete with them, oh, did you see such and such bought the iPhone 13? And we have no idea how that person got it, whether they had the money, they borrowed the money, and they bought it on a credit card that's going to charge them 25% interest. And it's very unfortunate that our generation has gotten to a point that we just go through things. When something breaks down or it's a little old, we think that, oh, we just got to throw it away and buy the latest one. And my family, they always give me a hard time. They say, Dad, our refrigerator is older than the boys. The refrigerator is 22 years old, and our older one is only 21. They give me a hard time about my phone. Dad, your phone is dinosaur. It's 5 years old. It's like, yes, but it works. And I'm going to use it until it dies. I'm going to have a backup plan. I know which one I'm going to buy next, but there's no reason to just throw this away. But unfortunately, because of our society, because of our social media, we've gotten used to like, oh, I have to have this subconsciously. We don't think about it, but subconsciously, because we see our friends have it, that's what we want to do. So this goes back to the scriptures that we're reading about temptations and desires. If you remember, I think I have it up somewhere in here. I won't read it, but in here, it did talk about the temptation and desires are actually a way for us to develop our characters, to develop the character of contentment, to develop the character of being patient and not being tempted with it, because temptation is our human nature. So really being able to identify the temptations and resist in it. Now, of course, we should enjoy life, but I don't think we always need the biggest and the newest television set in our home just because it's a bit.
Yes. Good, Alex. Thank you.
I have a couple of comments before we go. So I guess Jonathan, Jordan's younger brother, is joining us too. He says, I have a workbook and money box too. So Jordan is participating. I'm not sure. Jordan, please let us know how old you are in the chat. And then we also have another comment on buying a house this year. So those are some of the goals that are in the chat.
Okay, well, welcome, Jonathan. We look forward to hearing your comments as well. Okay, so we're going to move on down to, this is where we want to spend a little bit of time talking. And you can see we've got it all kind of mapped out. When you think about investing in your future, we don't always acknowledge it, but we are constantly investing in our futures. That's something that we're doing all the time. We just may not be investing well, depending on what decisions we're making and what we're doing. So there's an investment even before we're born in us being able to develop enough to be born. And then in our childhood, our parents and teachers and others are investing in our education, our experience, in order to get us to adulthood. And then as we're working as adults, we're investing in whatever our chosen professions are, whatever our work is. We're investing in ourselves in order both to make a living and to plan for our future. And we're going to talk a little bit in next about active and passive income and what that means and how that works in our financial success. But we are investing ourselves when we get an education. And that education, a lot of times, especially in America, that education, immediately people think college. But I talk to a lot of young people and explain to them that you're investing in your education from elementary all the way through high school, and you're investing in your education if you go to a trade school, for instance, and really learn that trade and become an expert at that trade. There are lots of college graduates who don't make nearly as much money as a great plumber or mechanic, for instance, especially I know here anyway. And so you've got to really think about, how am I going to invest, those education years in my life. And then as we get into our professions, we continue to get educated. We continue to maybe get certifications or other training so that we can be a better, whatever our title is, and make sure we're able to contribute as much and to earn as much as possible. And so our education and our experience are really ways that we are investing in ourselves. And then that next stage is the stage where we want to continue investing in the society and in others, even in our later years, so that we aren't necessarily worrying about how to pay the bills, because if we've done a good job of investing financially, but we still want to invest our expertise and our experience and our compassion in all kinds of ways throughout our society, so that we don't ever really want to stop investing. We want to invest in the next generation. As we get older, we want to invest in those that are coming along behind us. And so this kind of helps remind you of that. And it has both the material goals and the very important spiritual goals that we need to keep in mind. And even when we're gone, we can still be investing, whether with the legacy that we leave. And that legacy is what we've poured into others. That legacy can be financial, it can be an endowment, but it can also be the knowledge and the wisdom that we leave with others. There's a lot, these Mind Treasures classes are investing in people and even children like Jordan and Jonathan, and they'll be able to invest these concepts into their children. And it's a legacy of financial independence and financial experience that can go on for a long time. So we want to make sure we're thinking about those things. And on the spiritual side, we want to make sure that what we learn spiritually, we are applying so that it affects our lives. It shouldn't be this one compartment, where you've got your spiritual compartment and you got your financial compartment. Your life should be very holistic, and all these things are affecting each other. And then activity 3 is leaving a legacy. And if you have not already entered something in that box, I hope just during this conversation, you started to think a little bit, and we'd love for you to share when you think about what you'd like to be remembered for. That is something you can put in the chat, or if you wanted to share it verbally, we would love to hear that.
Nari, why don't we start the breakout session? So I got
Okay.
2 groups, and then we can ask those questions. Those would be
Okay.
the topics of.
So we're at the first breakout time?
Yep, you're at the first. Yep, it's 35 minutes into, so we're at.
Perfect.
First
That's
breakout.
perfect. And are we actually doing breakouts, or are we just having
No.
the discussion here?
No, let's do breakouts. We have enough people that we can do.
Okay,
breakouts.
so one breakout question is, what would you like to be remembered for? That is a great question. And then another question I had for us to consider Where'd it go? Scale. Oh, we're not in moderation yet. That's why. Have any of you had experience with passive income? And that's what we were about to kind of talk about. And what has your experience been? Or what steps would you need to take right now to establish passive income for your future? Okay. And remember in your breakouts to make sure someone is going to report back what you talked about. Oh yeah, there are a lot more people than I saw on my screen.
All right, it seems like you guys were done quick. You gotta unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Every time you come out of the breakout room, everybody gets muted, so.
No problem.
Automatically.
Actually, Alex, I was trying not to be late for once. Because I usually am the last group to come out. And this time I said, oh, he's telling us, and I actually told him, let's get back over there before he has to pull us back.
Well, it's actually automatic, so it's not that I have to pull it. The system just kicks everybody out. Yeah, I don't have, so don't ever feel being late because in that sense, the system kicks everybody out and back into the main.
Okay, I thought it was you kicking us out, so I was trying not to be a problem child today.
You're never a problem child. Okay, so why don't you guys go ahead? What did your group talk about?
Okay, we did not have any volunteers to report for our group, so I'm doing the report. But next time, our group is going to have a person to do it. We had an interesting conversation. We talked a little bit about the passive income, and then talked more, kind of morphed more into a conversation about ways to be active and plan for retirement, so that you have you know what kinds of things you want to be able to do after you don't have to work a job, all day, every day. And we also found out that, let's see, I'm having a hard time honestly reading even my own writing, which isn't good. But Rhonda did have had to be patient about wait a minute, about being home. Yes, about being home, right? Being at home, she had to learn patience. About buying a home. I'm sorry, I cannot read my own writing. Okay, about buying a home. And she had to be patient. And then when I saw the rest, I realized what I was saying. And she had to do a lot of research to do that. And we talked about how, as we're planning, whether it's planning for our passive income, and we talked about what some of the different types of passive income might be, that we have to do some research about what's the best alternative for us. And then we need to, once we do our research, then we can establish whatever that goal is. And Raju talked about how investments, well, he asked basically first, he asked what types of passive income we were talking about. And what came up out of that was investments, rental property, and we talked about how passive income and just planning for our years when we aren't working a full-time job all the time really does affect our quality of life. Ms. Judy was our example of someone who, with Mind Treasure, she's able to stay active, participate with children and with others on her own terms, but it does, and be able to serve others and make money on the side, but it's on her own terms during her retirement years, not a 9 to 5 where she has to report somewhere all day, every day. And so that was a good example of the kinds of things that we want to take into account now before we reach those years where we don't really want to go to a job every day. Okay.
All right, very cool. Thank you so much. Our conversation was about the same. I didn't even ask if anybody would like to volunteer, but I'd like to get Jordan involved in this conversation because I think this might be a little overwhelming for him. So I want to get his opinion. Rhonda, if you can unmute, please. Let's see what Jordan has to say.
And Jordan's brother Jonathan joined us as well, correct?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it. All right. So Jordan, I have a question, and for your brother, do you get money from time to time? Do you receive money either from your grandma or your parents?
Not really until one of my mom or dad asked if I could wash their car. So they asked me if they want to wash their car with me, and then I say yes.
Okay, and that's when they gave you some money?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Was it cool? Was it worth it that you did some work and you got some money, or you just prefer not to do the work and get some money?
It was worth it.
It was worth it. Okay, very good. So the conversation that we are having is that I know you're a little young maybe for this conversation, but the idea is that as we grow, so right now you're young, you have lots of energy, and as we are young, we can work, we can do things. We can either wash car or go work somewhere, get up in the morning and then do work and all of that and make money, which is great. We all do that. But then as we get older, then it becomes harder and harder to get up in the morning. And so what we want, and eventually we get to a point where we can't really, our body cannot work. So we want to make sure that we have something. And don't worry about if this conversation is a little big. We will, as you grow older, you will begin to understand it. Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully, by the time we're done with this program, either your grandma or your parents will start a allowance system for you. We'll talk more about it a little bit later. All right.
Great.
Okay. So thank you, Rhonda. So the other thing that we talked about in our group was also about how we like to be remembered by, and I want to share a couple of the scriptures that we didn't spend too much time on it yesterday. I'm going to share my screen, which again, for those that believe that we survive, our soul survives, it is a requirement that we leave a legacy behind. It's not just about whether I want to do it or not. I'll read a couple of them quickly. It says, "Know thou of the truth that the soul, after its separation from the body, will continue to progress until it attaineth the presence of God," for those that believe in it. And then number 7, it says, "The progress of man's spirit in the divine world after the severance of its connection with the body of dust is through the bounty and the grace of Lord alone. 2, through the intercession and the sincere prayers of humans, other human souls. Or 3, that's my favorite one, through the charities and important good works which are performed in its name." So it's almost like if we believe in all the spiritual concepts and aspects, it's like we have to leave something behind. We cannot just think about ourselves. And in our finances, I think this is one of the unique things about our program is that when, I'm sure everyone, when they began to talk about how do we learn, or at what age do we begin to learn about finances? What's the good age? 15 years ago when we started, the idea was that, oh, we got to teach our teenagers before they complete high school or secondary school. They have to know. But we've been, at Mind Treasures at least, we've been so blessed that 95% of our participants are actually in primary school, like Jordan's age. Jordan's age is a perfect age. That's when grade 3, that's when we start in school.
Mm-hmm.
And what, based on the scriptures that we have put together and this table, our finances actually starts at the point of conception in the mother's womb. It doesn't involve with money, but it's giving us an example, just as how in that 9 months, the mother provides for the fetus and the fetus develops the limbs that it needs for this world. Jordan, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you unmute, please? Yeah, sometimes I have a little difficulty with the mouse. All right. So Jordan, do you remember being in your mom's belly before you were born?
No.
No. How come? I think I remember that. All right. I'm just kidding. I don't remember that. So remember, in the mother's belly, you got your fingers and hands and eyes and everything. It was all created in there, right? Before you were born. Have you ever seen a newborn baby? You remember your brothers, right? How old is Jonathan?
3.
3. Okay, so you remember when he was born?
When Jonathan was born? remember?
Yes.
Yeah, so he was born with everything. He already had everything. It was just small, and they continue to grow. So it's the same concept in here. In the mother's womb, we gain everything that we need for this world, and in this world, it continues to grow. So now, and this is like God's way of showing us how it works. And again, for those that believe in it, in the next world, that here we not only we need to take care of our material stuff, we need to eat, we need to have a place to live, we need to be healthy, we need to gain education, learn different things, but also we need to concentrate on what we need for the next world too, which is these elements in here, these different things. All right, so we'll stop here on this lesson and open it up for any questions on anything. Thank you, Jordan. Jordan, did you do your muscle man?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
I was sick all week, so I wasn't able to work with him on that, but maybe you can direct me
Okay.
a little bit more to that one.
All right, I'll do that. Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. So any questions before we move on to the next lesson? Are we good? Silence means quiet. Rhonda, I'll talk to you outside.
Okay, perfect.
Nari, it seems like silence is everyone in agreement to move forward. You're muted. Nari, you're muted.
Got it. Okay, so Alex, we can go to the moderation page, and while we go, anybody want to tell me what this is? Jordan, what does this look like to you?
Scales of justice.
It's
Those are
a
the scales of justice.
scale. It's a scale, right? And what do we use scales for? What
To
do you-
measure stuff.
It can be to measure stuff, right? And when, I did. So let's say we have a scale and we put a bunch of stuff on this side, but none on that side. What's that called? What is it then?
It's tilting down on one side.
Yeah. Now when it's like this, it's a little bit closer. What's it now? It's more in balance, right? Moderation may, a lot of times people hear that word, it might sound like a kind of a long word, but Jordan, guess what moderation means?
What?
Balance. That's all that word means. It means balance. And we want to make our moderation treasure stronger so that our life can be balanced. So our life doesn't get out of balance. We don't want to spend all our time working to make money and not enjoy our home or our family or the vacation that we work so hard to pay for because we're so busy trying to make money. On the other hand, we don't want to spend all our money on things that make us happy and not have money to retire and take care of our bills. And so a lot of our financial decisions relate to how balanced our life is and us being balanced in our decision making, getting the information that we need and balancing our time. That's just as important as balancing our money. You don't want to spend all your time at work and never spend time with your family. You also can't go on vacation every single week and never go to work. So you need balance in how you spend your time, how you spend your money, how you spend your efforts. Where are you going to put your energy? It's great to spend time studying, but you might also need to spend some time working out so you can be physically healthy and strong, just as much as you want to be mentally healthy and strong. And so this next set of discussions is around how we can practice moderation in all the different areas of our life, with our money, with our time, with our different activities. And so, Alex, can we go to the moderation page, and we're going to talk a little bit, not as much about money management, we're going to talk a little bit about budgeting our time.
Do I start with, okay, I'll start with the bottom.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you, Alex. So Alex has already thrown a few things in here for us to think about. And what we do with this budget journal, and you've got this in your workbook, and it's something that you can print these pages out and maybe use them for a couple weeks to really get a feel of how you're using your time. What you want to do is look at your 24-hour day, and you know however much you sleep. You know, some folks sleep a lot, some of us maybe don't sleep quite as much, but you know how much sleep you need, and you want to subtract that sleep time, and then the rest of the time is how much time you have. So for instance, I know I pretty much require about 6 hours of sleep a day. My daughters, who are way younger than me, in their 20s, seem to require a lot more sleep time. But whatever your sleep time is, you know what that is, subtract it from your 24-hour day. And then that lets you know how much time you have to work with. And, you know, just for ease of doing this, let's say you have like 15 hours a day. And we're giving you 10 hours to sleep because you're a teenager. And you can take that 15 hours a day, and then you would have to budget how you're using your time. How much time is spent for spiritual development? I know this morning I had a session with a group that I read through the Bible with, and on Saturday mornings we call each other. We used to meet up before COVID, and we've started meeting up a little bit now, but we call each other or we meet up and we spend an hour talking about what we read in the Bible and how we're going to apply it to our life, etc. There are people that have other things that they might do, prayer times or Bible studies, your time when you go to your religious group and spend time with them. So you want to actually look at every day of the week and how much time are you spending on spiritual development? Is it 30 minutes a day? Is it an hour a day? What is it? And there could be one day a week, maybe where there's a gathering of your religious group on Saturday or Sunday or in the middle of the week. So you might have to put more time on those days. And then there's family time. And you notice Alex has put these in here with a pretty good, I noticed the priorities. You know, we need to think about our spiritual development. Our family should be pretty high on our priorities. And we need to say, how much time every day do I get to spend with my family? And so the shaded lines are the budget. So that's where you're putting, ideally, here's how much time I want to spend on spiritual development. So let's say that's 30, yeah, excellent. Family time. Now I'd like to spend more than 30 minutes a day with my family. Maybe I want to make it a couple hours. Yeah, you can tell we've done this a few times. Managing our finances. Now I may not have to manage my finances every single day because I know that's what Alex would probably like, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. That might be every other day or once a week even, depending on how we handle our finances. Community service. Now there may be things you do for community service every day. There could be certain days where you have some community service things that you know you do. Reading. Those of us that love to read know we can lose a lot of time reading. But that might be something we do every day. It could be something we do occasionally. Playtime. Jordan, how much time do you think you spend every day playing? What do you think? Oh, you need to unmute, please, Rhonda.
Rhonda's working on it.
How much time do you spend playing?
What do you think? How much time do you think you spend? How much time do you think you're going to spend today playing, Jordan?
So at school, for our recess, we get like 10 minutes of recess. And I go to like an after school program, and that's 10 minutes of recess too. So I get 20 minutes of playtime.
That's 20 minutes? Okay, and when you come home, do you get to play?
At home,
Yes.
I get to play until it's bedtime because
Okay.
I come home like at 3, sort of in the afternoon time.
Okay, great. So Mom, about how much time is that he gets to play after school too?
He probably gets home about 5:30, and he may get a couple of hours in, an hour and a half to 2 hours.
All right, so again, Alex knows the drill. He had already put in a couple hours for you, Jordan. And then one of the adults may want to give us a sample here. Exercise. what's a typical amount of exercise that someone wants to put in here?
And I'm gonna ask the boys, and just to let you know, Jason, Connor, and Martin are in our house. So they're dialing in from our house, and I know Connor and Martin have gotten really into bodybuilding, so they're doing a lot of exercising. So let's get their answer, because they've become
Okay, great.
obsessed. Hassan says 30 minutes, and there is a comment from Ismail that I will read it later.
45 minutes a day.
40, there you go, 45 minutes a day from the from the bodybuilding boys.
Oh, okay, okay, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I know I do 60 a day only because that's how long it takes me to get around the route that I have to do. I'd like to do it in 45, but I'm not fast enough. Social media, this is an important one. Let's see.
And let's be honest, because often I think we overlook how much time we spend on social media, especially when we got this thing and we just keep on doing like this, and then sometimes we like it, go up and down. So let's be honest in here.
But Alex, we mean actual social media, like all of the little apps where you're talking to other people, or TikTok, or where you're sending stuff, right? So just playing like video games on my phone doesn't count, correct?
That can be part of that. Well,
But I'm not playing with anyone else. It's
Okay.
just my high score I care about.
yeah, but social
For an
media,
hour every day.
a lot of times social media, we're just looking at nonsense videos. I mean, we just get so into it.
I know, you're
Videos
right.
and pictures, and I mean, there is nothing wrong because that has become part of our life. I do that, but it's like, for me, it's like late at night after 9 p.m. where my brain is fried. It's like, okay, let me watch some, and I love watching like animal videos. But it seems like for a lot of people, they have become addicted to this social media.
Yes. And it's all day, every day, and you kind of have to stop people in meetings and other stuff where they need to pay attention. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
Okay, so
And then just one thing, once when I was doing this, I asked a group of high schoolers, they were seniors, and I asked them to do this. And when I said social media, they said, oh, so do you mean we should add up all the little times that we spend talking to our friends? And it's like, yes. And then the student says, that's a lot. It's like, yes, exactly. that is a lot. So before we go on, I want to read Ismail's comment because it's very important. It says, glad I happened to catch this intro to moderation. Budgeting time is so important. Wish I had learned this 30 years ago. And I think it's budgeting time that often we really overlook. We think that we can just do it as we go. And you're right, Nari, I put this in a certain order. There's one particular one, managing finances. So let me just explain how this table works. I did a copy and paste, that's why the numbers went up, but it should be the same. So as Nari was saying, that some things we do them every day the same amount of time. So column B is for budget. That's when we say that we want to spend 30 minutes a day on our spiritual empowerment, development. And then column A is the actual. It's like, so if it's Monday I said I was going to do 30 minutes. Then at the end of the week or the next day, I come back and say, all right, did I do 30 minutes? No, maybe I got busy. I only did 20 minutes.
right.
So creating a budget is creating the budget, whether it's time or as we will see in money. It's the creation is simple. We can put all numbers, but then keeping track of everything that we said we were going to do and not do is a huge task, especially when it comes to money budgeting. As we will see, some people would rather give up their lives than write down what they do with their money.
Right.
And I put this in here, managing finances. And as we can see, so in the group, majority of the group participants, and I do have the numbers. So we have about 20 some that are participating. I think there are 22 that are participating in the virtual and all that. So this week, only half of the participants actually completed their assignments. So doing their assignments is part of managing your finances because you're learning how to develop these habits. And again, it does not pay to wait until an hour before class to try to do. I know there are procrastinators. I have done that. I'm guilty of that. So I'm not saying that With money, no. With money, I'm on top of it. But other things, during my college year, if I have to do a homework, it's like always last minute. So we all have our strengths and areas that needs to be improved. So that's why, please, going forward, allocate in your weekly budget. And again, not last minute, but like somewhere in the middle of the week, as we've been setting reminders, a time, and the assignments are not that long. They don't take that long. It only takes, I think, everyone who's done it. They're going to get a little bit more complicated, but it's like we have to allocate, and it's like, as you can see, it's 30 minutes for the whole week. We are not asking to do 30 minutes a day. And then also, I think Eva says we need to control the social media time. That was a comment from her. Yes, definitely. That's why it's important for us to set a budget of how much we should spend on social media and how much do we actually, because I think most of us, we forget, we're just in front of our phone or computer all day and then forget how much time we're spending there.
Yes. So what you would do then is you would come back, ideally at the end of the day would be great, or the first thing in the morning, which in the morning you could review you could review, oh, okay, I've budgeted this much time on this today, on Wednesday, what I'm gonna do. And while you're looking at that, you could fill in, oh, here's the time I really used on Tuesday. So you could compare what you budgeted against what you actually did. Did you spend less time on spiritual development and more time on social media than you had planned, et cetera? And then over the course of a week or even a couple weeks, if you do this, you would be able then to kind of see what your patterns are and to see where you might need to start making some adjustments in the way you're spending your time, because time is just as valuable as money, and spending it wisely is just as important as spending your money wisely. Okay, Alex, are we going to be transitioning? So the other thing with this is the same way we've got this budget sheet, we also want to think about our assets and liabilities at this point, Alex?
No, that we're gonna do that next week.
Next session?
Yeah, next week. Next week we'll do.
Okay, so next week you're gonna get into that. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether we were doing all of that.
No, that's too much. That's too much.
That's good.
Yeah, let's just concentrate on this, and then we'll get
Perfect.
into the budget sheet.
Okay, awesome. And creating these kind of budget sheets and things like shopping lists, doing those kinds of things together as a family is a great way not only to teach your children, but then the family can hold each other accountable. If each of you knows that you have a plan, then you've got other people who can check in with you on whether you're following the plan or not. Because that's all a budget is, whether it's a time budget, a money budget, it's just your plan of how you plan to spend your time or spend your money, and having someone else to check in with you. So are you following the plan? How's the plan going? Do you need to adjust the plan? That will hold you more accountable. And that's another, the accountability is another treasure that we'll be talking about, I think, in these sessions. Okay, so Alex, we're gonna move on to the next piece.
Yeah, I just put in a question in the chat to see who creates shopping lists before they go to supermarket.
Great.
So the answer is Hassan says no, Raju says yes, Ismail says yes. The boys are saying yes, always. Oh, there's a lot of yeses in here.
And Alex, that shopping lists are a good use of the evil iPhone that you have a problem with.
iPhones are not evil. And then actually, I love using a paper. As much as I like to do paperless stuff, my shopping list is always on the calendar because it's a lot easier for me to write down. But everybody's different. So let's get into the shopping list.
Yeah, well, what I have found that the reason it helps me because I don't know when I'm gonna think of something I need to put on the shopping list, and that way I can do it on my phone, and then I have it later, and it is a lost piece of paper. And those, if other people are like me, there are multiple stores you go to, so I have to know what do I buy at Costco versus what do I buy at Ralph's versus et cetera, et cetera. So I actually have each of the different main stores I go to. And when I remember something that we're almost out of for that store, I can keep it on my phone. And then I don't have to remember when I get to the store, what did I say I needed? So.
Yeah. I create my paper always, I leave it behind the house, so I have to call someone in the house. I don't lose it, but I leave it on the counter. But it is definitely important, and it seems like everybody is doing that.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that an exercise that Rhonda, if Jordan is not involved in, he can definitely get involved. It's a great exercise for them to begin to learn on how to, because it's very important. We go to store and then we say, oh, what did I need? It helps us both as far as remembering what we need to do. And also for a lot of people, it's a matter of just buying the life necessities, the essentials, especially when things get expensive, as US is going through. Things are all of a sudden, after all these years, I've lived in US for 40 years, and it's the first time that we are having such a huge inflation here. So Alicia says, I keep a list on the fridge and then forget to bring it. So Alicia is like me. I call home and have someone send me a picture. But at least we have a list. We have our system. We have our list here. Okay. So this exercise, I mean, it's not something that we need to do later on. So both activities in the moderation, it's something that are ongoing. So as you will notice in the lesson plans and the ABCs of wealth, some activities, like I'm going to go back to patience. Patience, we set goals, personal, family, and we're going to keep track of them, continue, we set them. Of course, we do revise them from time to time, but the revision is like once in a while, maybe once every 6 months, or as we achieve a goal and then we come up with a new one. The activities in moderation, these two activities are things that we need to do them. Again, shopping list, I do a lot. I have never created a time management, but for several participants in past groups, I have definitely encouraged that because some people are overwhelmed. They even make themselves overwhelmed. They want to do too many things. We have one participant from South Africa over the summer, and she was doing so many things and she wanted to do so much more. And I said, please create this because you're not recognizing she has 4 kids. There's a family that have 4 kids. She wanted to start a business, learn this, learn all of it. It's like, you need to first understand where your time is going, set your priorities. So that's what these two lists do. Okay.
And the calendar on your phone can help you as well, because if you really put in everything on your phone, not just appointments, but your appointments with yourself. That's what I call them, because there's times, there are appointments on my phone that are just blocks of time I've set aside to make sure I'm spending that time on things that I've decided are important. And so you can make those appointments with yourself, whether it's for your spiritual development or time with your kids or whatever, to make sure you don't overbook yourself.
And thank you, Nari, for reminding me that. So if you remember, when you registered for this workshop, there were 2 tasks to confirm your registration. And one of them was to accept this calendar invite. And this Google Calendar or any other calendar that you're using, it's an extremely powerful tool, which not many people use. We have to use it because, first of all, once we put it in here, it shows up on your calendar based on your local day and time. So we always say, oh, the class is on Saturday, but for our friends in Malaysia, it's actually Sunday morning. That's the timing. Then also, even this morning, I had 2 requests from 2 of the participants. Can you send us 3 of them actually? Send us the link to the Zoom. It's like, no, it's in your calendar. That is one thing that I'm always encouraging everyone. Now that we are scheduling a lot of virtual meetings, a lot of people have, they want to, when they create a virtual meeting, they take the meeting ID and a password, whatever, and email it to someone. But this, at least the Google Calendar, it's embedded in there. You can schedule the calendar event and then enable Zoom in there within it. I don't have it on this one. I should probably add it. It's actually an extension. If you are using a web-based browser, there's an extension that allows you. So if I go in here, I'm just going to open this. There would be another. So like this one says, add a Google Meet to video conferencing. there would be another button in here that says add a Zoom link. And that way, it gets on your calendar, it gets on the participants, others' calendars, even for your task. I love my phone, Nari, because this is one of the features that I love using. It's like, it's there, it gives me a reminder, and I don't have to search through email or WhatsApp groups. It's like, where is that meeting ID? Who sent it to me? When did they send it to me? So if you are not using, I'm gonna put the question in there to see who is using the calendar. But definitely, please begin to get used to it. Use your calendar function. I won't even put it. All right.
Exactly.
So back to our moderation. Do we want to go to breakout, or should we go into the forbidden budget sheet?
Let's go into the forbidden budget sheet. Alex, see, you put it that way because you knew you would challenge me to say, sure, the forbidden budget sheet. Let's do that.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got a few minutes we could spend on that, and then we can go into the breakout. Don't you
Yeah,
think?
exactly. So I'm going to put it in the chat. Let's ask everyone who keeps track of their finances. Let's see who actually currently keeping track of their finances, their income and expenses.
A little bit, sometimes.
So in your online worksheet, there are several tabs in here. So there is the budget, income, and expenses. We're going to get into that. There's also a weekly income and expense tracking. You can use that. That one is not a budget, but for some people prefer to like start a little simpler. So it's really up to you. But I think we found that starting with a budget sheet is pretty good. And then next week we'll
Excuse
go.
me, Alex.
Yes.
For some people, doing the weekly tracking for a couple weeks is good to get them thinking about their money before they try to do a budget. Because if you really haven't been paying any attention, you might need to do the tracking. So then you know what to start putting in your budget.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So in the chat, we got a few yeses. We got 2 yeses. Or I don't know how many of the boys are saying yes, but it seems like mostly a no. And this is the reason I called it forbidden is, again, most people, they would rather give up their lives than begin to keep track of their income. So let's start with the weekly income and expense. Nari, it's yours.
Okay, so here is where, and you can see it's by date, and we probably can update it so it'll look more current. And Alex is showing you, if you went in and it wasn't the date you wanted, all you do is put in that first date, and it's going to fill in the following dates for you. And so you can see for, what is this, basically for about 3 months worth of time, you can track what's going on with your money. First of all, you could see what money's coming in. And so income is what comes in. And if you're a student, a young person, there could be money from your parents. If you're an adult with a job, it's going to be your weekly salary or monthly salary. So you're going to put it in when it comes in. If you only get paid once a month, you put in the November 5th, and you might not put in any more income until December 3rd. If it's every other week, you put in the amounts as they come in. So you might put in then November 19th. So as money comes in, or as you anticipate it coming in, so you can kind of see, you want to make sure you're always putting in all the money that comes in. Maybe you normally get your $500 a month, and then you might end up having to add a line for a special bonus that came in that week. And so you want to put the money in as it comes in. And then you also want to include what we talked about, passive income. So maybe you've got some investments, and some of those investments may pay a certain amount every week or every month. Sometimes they may be something that is just incremental, depending on what the investment is. And then what you want to do is you want to start actually putting in what you're spending. Some of it you might know in advance. You might know what your rent and mortgage is going to be every month, so you can put that in advance if you want. But for instance, your phone bill, if it's your iPhone, you might know what it's going to be every month, and so that might be there. So it's, whatever, $55 a month or something. And then internet. Hopefully you know what you're paying for your internet every month, and you'd be able to enter that in. And so, you know, let's say that's less than your phone. So let's say that's $10 a month.
And for a lot of our friends who are outside of, for us here in US, our phone and internet is a fixed monthly, so we don't pay per use. But for a lot of the friends
Yes.
in different parts of the world, they do
per use.
they pay per use. So it's really
Yes.
important to, that's even more important, because as Nari is saying, some of the expenses are fixed. And Nari, I'm not sure if you remember, at least I think it's in Nigeria that they pay their rent once a year. They pay
Yeah,
it in advance.
exactly.
I don't know where
And-
else they do that.
Right. Yeah, that was scary. But the other thing is, if it's a different bill, that's even more important, that when that bill comes in, you put in what that amount is, because you're going to need to start tracking. And then once you do this regularly, it'll start showing you a pattern of how much are you using the phone, and are you being consistent in how much you're spending, or is it going all over the place? With all of us, you can't put in you might have made a budget of what you're supposed to spend at the supermarket, but this is where you're actually going to put in what you spent. Coming back with that supermarket receipt, or looking at, you know, what got charged that day on your card, is going to help you to start noticing, hey, I say I only spend $50 every time I go to the grocery store, but I'm really spending 75 or 80 every time. So do I need to, are there things I'm throwing in the basket that I didn't plan to put in there? Or do I really need to start budgeting, because that's really what it costs to feed my family, and I need to make sure I've got that amount of money to buy my groceries. So let's say can we spend more at the supermarket than we spend on our phone and internet, please, Alex?
Okay, sure. I'll do 45,
Okay.
and because it's a weekly expense, so.
No, yeah, exactly.
50,
Okay.
And another week we go on a diet, so we buy a little bit less. So that's what we do. And as you
Okay.
can see in here, the way this worksheet works, so we started with 500 and then 100. So it's automatically calculating to see how much. So it says, okay, if you were expecting to receive 500 on the first week and then another 100 in the second week, and what you have already spent has put you into a negative 25. Because if you add up all these numbers, that should be 625. It's more than what you have already brought in. So this sheet does all that calculation.
And so, Alex, this thing would help you to notice you don't have any money to eat out this first week. You know, you might have thought you did, but you only had $170 left. So when you're making those decisions about, oh, should we go to a restaurant tonight? Maybe not, because we've got some auto expenses coming up, and the kids need some new shoes. And we said we were going to put aside money for travel. So as you start filling this in and it's giving you this information, it's a part of your decision making about spending that is discretionary. You know, there's some things you may not be able to help. Your rent, but a lot of these things you have some choice about how much to spend on some of the other things. And this will give you a tool in helping to make those decisions.
So in chat, I asked the question, it's like, if you have been keeping track of your income expenses, what tools have you used? So far, I have 4 Excels. So there are a lot of different tools. This is one, there's Excel. There are apps, free apps that can be used. But the most important thing is to make sure we do use something. Again, it's a forbidden for many people. We have this thing in US called Starbucks, and the boys all work at Starbucks, Matin, Jason, and Connor, that's why they're all here. That it's like, we go there and we get coffee, and coffee at home, if you brew it, it's probably like less than $1 or maybe $1. But then you go to Starbucks and a simple coffee is at least, I don't know, $5, $6. Before you know it, you spend so much. And again, there's nothing wrong. We're not trying to put the boys or Starbucks out of business, but keeping track and knowing how much to spend on supermarket, eating out, clothing, travel, entertainment, especially as we are young, we do hang around with our friends. And if we do have in the societies where there's credit card, it's so easy to lose control of how much we're spending because we don't necessarily get to see it. All right, should be bottom of the hour. Why don't we do our breakout session? And then set it up.
Okay. A couple of questions to consider on your breakouts. Back to moderation, what are some out of balance areas in your life? And how could you benefit from practicing moderation? And then when we do things like a family grocery list or a family budget, how will you and your family members keep each other accountable for the plans that you make together as a family? So those are a couple ideas of your discussion points.
Okay, I'm recreating, let's see. Make sure that I don't end up in the same group with somebody else. So Nari, where are you? Okay, so you are in group 2 and I'm gonna go in group 1. Okay, so we got 10 minutes on the breakouts and then we'll come back together.
See, Alex, last time we came in early because I knew that would happen. I'd be in the middle of a sentence and you'd snatch us back.
But it is the timer. I mean, the timer does tell you.
I know.
How much time we got. Okay, I think everyone. Why does it say? Okay, all right. We are good. Go ahead, Nari.
Okay.
From your group.
And so, yeah, there were still no takers on doing the report. So, but we had some really good ideas. We actually didn't get to the official questions that I gave, but we had a really good discussion, and Hassan got us started on this whole wasting time discussion, and that how important it is not to waste time, and that he creates weekly sheets to give himself an idea of where the time went. So it's almost like he does, he really does try to practice figuring out where his time went. And he's going to use your tools to help with that. Rhonda talked about how the worksheets like that are helpful, but some of us don't always have the time to do the worksheets so that we can actually make the most of these tools. So it's great knowing about these tools, but if you don't even have time to use them, what can you do? And that's where Eva brought in some time management tips about the fact that she blocks off time to make sure that she's using those worksheets. Then we talked about how using Google Calendar, making appointments with ourselves to make an appointment with yourself to update your budget, or make an appointment with yourself to update your calendar. Because one of the things that the discussion covered was we really have to go back and look at, we said we were gonna make a shopping list. Did we really make the shopping list? Did we use it? Or did we, when we have these tools and we set up a spreadsheet, did we go in and use the budget spreadsheet or the time spreadsheet? And if so, how did it work? Do we need to tweak it? And then one of the great tips that came out of this was, we all have these long lists of things to do. Prioritize our top 2 to 3 things, and then reward yourself for getting those top 2 or 3 things done, so that you aren't beating yourself up because you didn't get the list of 10 things done that nobody was going to be able to accomplish in one day. So pick the top 2 or 3, make those a priority, and then reward yourself for accomplishing those things. And you'll be more likely to see progress every day on what you've decided you need to get done. We found that reducing social media time, and then making sure that you really are going back every day and seeing if you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. Anyone else from the group? Is there something I missed? Okay.
I liked how you added about priorities in the app. You said something about what app has that?
Oh, you can do that. You can actually do that on your iPhone. You know how you have the different you have on iPhone, you have reminders like on the bottom here. I can show you on the bottom of your well, this is how I've got mine set up. I've got my actual reminders. I've got the phone part, and then I've got my calendar, and then I've got messaging. I keep those always across the bottom of the phone. And so in my reminders, which, there are a lot, like today I've got 111 things scheduled, reminders scheduled, which, okay, I'm never going to do them. But total, that's what I've got. For today, I've only got 27, Alex. It's not that bad. But for the reminders that are super important, you can actually put, you can see here, for Mind Treasures, prepare for the Mind Treasures dinner, right? To remind me so that I don't miss it. And it's got 3 exclamation points. That means it's actually a high priority for today. It wouldn't have had those 3 exclamation points last week because, yeah, whatever. But now I know I actually have to pay attention. So it's got the 3. And so you can go from 1, 2, and 3 exclamation points. And that puts it higher up. For me, it gives me a different noise. So I actually pay attention. But
All right.
I got, issues, so I have to do that.
Very good. Thank you so much.
But
So-
yeah, the idea is use the tools that you have available to you.
Yeah, our phone is not only good for social media and nonsense stuff. It's there's a lot of smart things in these smartphones that we can use. Our group kind of talked about the same things. Raju talked about how him and his wife have a budget. They have broken it down into 5 different categories, how to keep track of it. Juliet in the chat put in that they have a year at the beginning of the year. They make individual resolutions, then combine them as a family, and then attach costs and keep track of it until they get it together. So we talked about also is that the importance of everyone in the family or even in the business partnership being involved in this budgeting and income and expense tracking. While one person might be responsible for the technical part of it, like writing it down, what app to use, whether it's Excel, paper, but everyone needs to be involved in that process. And as our children grow, become teenagers and then young adults, they can become more and more involved. Here in US, we have heard many times of individuals that one spouse, one partner was taking care of everything and the other one had no idea. And then they would get to a point that the family finances was in a big, huge problem. And one spouse said, I had no idea that all of this stuff was happening. In some cultures, especially in the older generation, it is not okay or expected for both partners or both spouses to be involved. It's traditionally been like the male part, again, in some cultures and countries, is that the male is responsible for earning the money and for keeping track of it. And times have changed. We definitely need to bring that equality between men and women. Again, that doesn't mean that both sides have to do everything. I was sharing in our group that my wife and I, she does part of it and I do part of it. But both of us know exactly how much money is coming in and where is it going, especially since we have several different rental properties. I'm involved with a few nonprofit organizations and other things, and I am responsible for all of their budgets. And some of them bring income to our household, so I need to make sure that those are all accounted for and we keep track of it. So again, it's not a budgeting is not one of the character traits that we are born with. It's not listed anywhere. It's a skill and habit that gets developed over time. It is difficult. Again, not creating the budget, it's easy, but the habit of, as I think in our group, Judy was saying, is that when we go spend something, making sure that at the end of the week or at the end of the month, we write it down somewhere, either in the app, Excel, the paper. That's what's really important. So I'm going to share, and we got something for Jordan. I'm going to show him how he can keep track of his money. But before I do that, actually, I do have that up. So I'm going to share with him. Jordan, if you have your workbook, that workbook that I provided you, the very last page there is a little sheet that's called the register book. And this is what we use in classrooms at schools. So in schools, when we present this to young students, again, we give everybody a box. Every week, we give them certain amount of play money as allowance. So they write it in here. I'm going to show you how it's done in the online worksheet, but I want you to see it. So even children from young age can develop this habit of keeping track. It's like, how much do I put in spend? How much do I put in share and then invest and save? So they begin to learn how this stuff works. So Jordan, hopefully when either your grandmother or your parents, after talking, they need to talk about it first. And if they agree to give you allowance, this is how you can keep track of it. But now that holidays are coming up, you might get some money for the holidays or for your birthday or something. This is how we keep track of this. Now I'm going to show you how we do it in the online worksheet. So everybody can see it. This is the tool. So register book is here. This is what we use with our young participants. So every time we go into the classroom, make this just a little bigger. I'm just going to put another example in here. So today is October 30th, right? 10:30. So let's say if I receive $20 in allowance as a child or as a youth or as a young person, then I want to allocate some of it. So $8 I'm going to allocate for life necessities. Now, knowing that Jordan at this point, he is not worried about food and clothing, shelter, and health. But as we grow, we begin to think about that stuff. And then we always like to recommend that we think about others. So I want to share, and I'm just allocating, and then we'll see where we share this. Investing, and our idea of investing is not just in stocks, real estate, or other things. It starts with our future, our family, our college, community. When we're starting a business, there's a lot of different areas where we can invest in. So I'm going to put $2 into invest. And as you can see, if you were paying attention, as I put numbers in here, this one worksheet tells me how much of the $20 is left. And I intentionally left $8 in there because that iPhone 13 that I need to save up for, it's a lot more expensive than $500. I think it's $1,000 if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to put that in here. So this is how the register book works. It can either be used in the online worksheet. So in schools where we present, all the students have either a tablet or a laptop and access to internet. So we create an individualized worksheet for each one, and then we use this. In areas where the internet and computers are not available, this is in the basic workbook. It's the last page of the basic that they can record it in here. So as you will see throughout this basic level as we're going through, a lot of what we are hoping everyone can do is to develop the habits of recording, whether it's time, whether it's money, because when we put it on paper, that is when we see it, it's visualized. And I was sharing in our group, I don't know anybody who can keep track of their finances in their head. It's impossible. I don't know anyone. So we have to write it down. It's just like another example is like when you're driving the car. If we don't have the little gauge that tells us how much gas, how much petroleum is in the tank, we can try to guess it, how much is in there, but eventually at some point in time, we're going to run out of petroleum and be stranded on the side of the road. So that gauge tells us when we need to go to the fuel pump and put some more petroleum or gas into it. It's the same thing with our finances. Or if you ever want to put a little sticker on if you're driving, put a little sticker on your gas gauge and petroleum gauge and see when you're going to be running out of gas. You can try to guess it, but it just doesn't quite work. So Jordan, hopefully, again, once you begin to receive some allowance and the real money and put it in your box, you can begin to use this. I'm going to go back. So the other tool that we can use, so as Nari was mentioning, we can either start with the weekly income and expense tracking, or for those that already have that already going on, you can begin with the budget sheet. The budget sheet is a little bit more complex. It looks a lot more complex because it actually has two budgets. We can begin thinking about how much money is going to come in. And I'm just going to do a little bit. We'll do more of this next week. So this one, let's say I'm the same. If I think that I'm going to, my income for monthly income is fixed, the number that I put in into the yellow box automatically gets populated for every month. And this is a 12-month budget sheet. It starts from November, from a month that's starting in 2 days, and it goes all the way through October of 22. So as you saw, I put in the 500 and then it filled in everything. Investments, if I have something, let's say $100 or let's say $200 a month from my investment from rental property or whatever that is. And then same thing, I'll put in my $250 in monthly rent, or you can do on annual or quarterly or however you want to do it. Then at the end of the month, I'm going to go back at the end of November. So once we are into December, and it would be preferred to do it by December 15. Probably I did, maybe my job was flexible. It's hourly. I thought I was going to get $500, but I actually got 600. So remember, this is the brown column is the budget, and then the green column is the actual. My rent is going to be the same. Usually rent is the same. However, when I said that, where's my supermarket? I said my supermarket is 200. This month, I needed to buy more protein or to help up build my body. I went a little bit more. So I spent $300. So again, you can either start with the income expense tracking sheet, or you can go straight to the budget. And this is something that we're going to develop over time. Even after the workshop series is done, we will continue to work on this. Those that they want to, there are families that we work with them over an entire year. So until they get into this habit. And we are here available to do this with you. Again, it looks a little intimidating. It looks a little complex. We will work together to develop this habit over time. And I want to give you one assignment for next week. So next week, we're going to do responsibility and accountability. So in the responsibility, there is a similar table for doing our chores or responsibilities around the house. That's one activity that, and I'll put the details into the group chat so everybody knows. The most important one is that what is our responsibility to others, which goes along with how would I like to be remembered by? It's like, what are the things that is in our society and I like to improve? I like to make it better, whether something does not exist or, and this could be a group activity as well. So we come up with some challenges and then begin to think about how do I do this? Because again, we are not living all by ourselves as individuals. We live in communities. So those are the assignments for next week. The recording is going to be available in a couple of hours because it does take some time to process this. So last 2 minutes, I'm going to open it up. Anyone has any question, comment about today's session? And we really appreciate everyone who is participating from different parts of the world, especially those who are late night, early morning in Malaysia. In Iran is fairly late too. Well, Iranians stay up late, so this is like beginning of the night. But I know for Raju and Eva, it's the 2 a.m. It's 4 a.m. right now there. Larry, any last minute comments?
No, I think I don't have anything else. I think we covered everything. Hopefully everyone will take this and use it.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating this week. do your assignments, please. Don't leave them for the last minute, and then we'll see you all next Saturday or Sunday.
Have a good Saturday, though.